Thanks for joining us on this episode of Lawyers on the Rocks. Lawyers on the Rocks are Jeremy Eldridge, Kurt Nachman, and Adam Crandall. We are produced by Gideon, who's not dead, at Up Next Creative.
Gideon, welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
How was death?
Warmed over.
It's quiet.
Apparently they were skinny jeans.
Much like the beginning of this podcast.
What are we drinking today, Adam?
You quit. My name's Kurt Nachman. I handle civil litigation. Jeremy Eldridge.
I
Where-
represent the wrongly accused. that was a stiff cider right there.
You're welcome.
Represent the wrongly accused. Those who went for nothing. Jesus.
I wish you'd worn your denim today.
That was thick. That was viscous.
We're off to a really terrible start.
I
Yes,
look like
we
I
are.
went undercover. This is like 42 Jump Street.
So just to clarify for the
A
listeners,
middle-aged man buys cocaine, loses
So-
law license.
we perhaps have the best staff in the entire universe, and they threw a little soiree for us because apparently today is Boss's Day.
no, it's
which-
tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow is Boss's
Tell 'em
Day.
what they
Boss's
called
Day
it.
on
a
Saturday.
Yeah,
That's dumb.
fuck
Because
you,
it's not
boss.
during the work week because it's a fake fucking holiday. It's a bad joke, dude. Did you really not get that? You put Boss's Day on the weekend so you don't observe it.
But our
Okay.
staff
I feel like
went
you
out
guys
of their
just
way.
got
Our
that.
staff went out of their way. So they made, among other things, pumpkin spice,
I don't think it's pumpkin.
apple spice,
latte.
hot cider.
Oh, I thought
rum
Adam made it. I didn't realize the
cocktail.
staff.
No.
made it.
No.
Okay, I think it's an apple spiced cider.
Megan definitely made spiced cider, brought in a crock pot and everything. So we did what any good lawyer on the rocks would do and put some fucking whiskey in it.
Although we didn't start at like noon, which is what we should have done.
Yeah, well,
So we scrapped
it
our.
might have made the beginning of this episode a lot better if we had started drinking a couple
Start
hours ago.
checking the cider, boys.
So we had a theme going as I was pulling stories for this episode, and it was First Amendment freedom of speech related issues. And of course, we had a free speech cocktail, which actually looks pretty good, which we scrapped.
It was censored.
suppressed.
It was suppressed.
You beat me. You win. That was like Family Feud right there. We asked 100 people this question.
So we'll table that for another time. But we did have a number of really good topics, including the top topic, which is the firing of the public defender who insulted her boss during a podcast was determined to be a valid termination. And so in the show notes, I'll post a separate link. It's behind a paywall, so you can't see it, but I will post a separate link from the Sun Sentinel to this story. First Amendment lawsuit by a former assistant public defender who was fired the day after her campaign to become the chief public defender ended because she insulted him on a podcast during her campaign. A federal judge dismissed her lawsuit. During the podcast, Ruby Green, who is black, said that retiring Broward County Public Defender Howard Finkelstein didn't hire black assistant public defenders, neglected his job, treated his employees like trash, and wouldn't let her march in a Black Lives Matter rally. She also made reference to Finkelstein's previous drug use. Next page.
That was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful. However, comments on which Finkelstein based his decision were not protected speech, said the court. They were more akin to employee grievances rather than a matter of public concern. Green, not quoted in this article, but Green is now a Broward County Assistant State's Attorney. So she turned
sides.
the other cheek, so to
She
speak.
turned state's evidence.
She snitched. No. So the story's interesting on a couple different levels, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I why don't you start with where you're going, but we have to end with this comes back to Baltimore, especially.
This definitely comes back to Baltimore. Well, it goes to show you that if you're running against your current boss in an election, that the boss is obviously going to look for a reason to fire you. And when you start lobbing criticisms about the workplace, you have to expect that you're going to get fired. Now, we don't know what employment law in Florida is like, but in this lawsuit,
I bet we can guess.
I'm sure it is an at-will state. I'm sure you can be fired for any reason or no reason at all. But a bad reason would be a protected First Amendment right. And so the question is, was this particular speech protected or was there something else? And if you look through some of the other articles, there were other things going on with Miss Green. It wasn't just this one particular incident. She had been demoted previously, but her concerns may very well be valid. It's just that they were employment-related concerns and not necessarily First Amendment-related concerns. Seems to me like it's splitting hairs a little bit.
They parsed as far as saying that they were employment grievances as opposed to matters in public concern. And we've seen that one of Hogan's former staffers made comments about Trump. We've actually seen two individuals in the Hogan administration, and we've seen two employees formerly of the Marilyn Mosby administration, one of which was a lawsuit in state court that at a hearing, or at a happy hour rather, there's some comments made that I believe were of a public concern. However, that former employee lost the litigation to Marilyn Mosby, saying that she could have fired her and that this wasn't a protected speech.
Right.
So, this hits home only because we've seen two former employees file suit against Marilyn Mosby, both of which, to my knowledge, have been successfully defended by the Attorney General's office.
I thought one went federal. Didn't one of those cases get filed in federal court?
It was actually the same individual. I know there are other potential litigants, so I've heard, but I think this hits close to home because Marilyn Mosby has been a lightning rod for controversy in Baltimore City, especially amongst former employees. I was not a former employee of her. I was a colleague of hers. I left before she won. However, when you look at some of that litigation, for instance, one of our friends, Michelle Wilson, was set to be the first African-American female deputy commissioner for the Baltimore City Police Department. And unfortunately, that position was withdrawn, or they withdrew that opportunity from her because she had made a comment on Facebook as to Ms. Mosby's veracity during her testimony, because she believed that Ms. Mosby did do this conduct she was accused of, which was doing a throat slice at another employee at an event. And so Ms. Wilson, so we've run into this situation where Ms. Wilson was deprived of an opportunity. Carrie Larry was a litigant and a former employee, also another wonderful attorney. I mean, all the attorneys that I'm mentioning right now are honestly some of the best female attorneys and prosecutors that I've ever come up against, which everyone knows where I stand on Marilyn Mosby. But in Carrie's case, it was the same thing. Michelle Wilson was one of these examples, along with Saida Hampton-El, and then they testified. And frankly, I did not read the court's ruling in that. I've read a lot of the press and talked to a lot of the people, but it came down to a similar situation, which was they were saying these sounded like grievances, and Ms. Mosby was not on the hook for her actions.
Do we know anything about we know that the First Amendment and speech is generally subjected to strict scrutiny. Any type of law, right? That's
a law that would be
as
law
applied
that
to
is
a law.
promulgated by a legislature would be
So
subjected
this
to
is
strict
more
scrutiny.
akin to a defamation or a libel type case,
Right.
So
which is
how
not
does the-
protected.
These
Which is
always
not
come out
necessarily
and back
which
up.
is
These
not
always come out
protected.
in wrongful termination cases. That's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about someone being fired,
Right.
and then filing a lawsuit regarding wrongful termination, and then that's where you get to, was the speech qualified or not? And in the Hogan situation, that individual was given their job back, and it was found to be protected speech, whereas obviously here it wasn't.
Is
So
this
how do we
related
draw-
at all to the recent Supreme Court case with the high school cheerleader who was?
That's our next story. Be patient.
We're not ready to
Aw,
segue
man.
yet.
We're not
Get
ready
in.
to turn the other cheek.
Come on, dude. Read your notes. If you hadn't spent so much time being dead, maybe you would have been prepared for today's podcast.
Maybe I just remember it
episode.
because I did read the notes and then I forgot that it was in the notes.
The cider hits you quick.
He has dementia.
No, so how do we parse this out, though? It seems pretty easy to me to say, if one of our employees said, made some disparaging comments about us, I don't, but these are elected officials, right? I mean, how is this not a matter of public concern? If we're talking about drug use and veracity, things of this nature, how is this not a matter of public concern?
Well, I think I guess my position is it would be a matter of public concern, but as an employer on the private side, you can fire anybody for any reason or no reason,
Right.
right? And so it would certainly be grounds for termination in a private organization. In a governmental organization, again, you're dealing with an elected official. I think they are going to take a look at this and they're going to try to parse out whether or not it is a matter of public concern. I don't disagree with you. I sort of disagree with the way the court came down on this particular situation. I mean, I feel like, but the flip side is, she didn't win her election. She lost.
Right.
And so you have to expect that there's going to be a casualty for someone who loses, who ran against just to be clear, Finkelstein was not running against her directly. He had handpicked an incumbent, or not an incumbent, but like a successor. And it was his appointed successor that he wanted to prevail. And so she was criticizing sort of the machine. And then when the successor prevailed, she got terminated.
Look, when you parse some of these statements, though, some of them are not for public concern. Treating your employees like trash is not of public concern. I mean, it's an HR issue.
How is that? We talk about that all the time with the state's attorney in Baltimore City.
Yeah, we do, but we're not the employee. And so there's a difference. You'd have to parse out. I don't want to parse trash, but workplace hostility or workplace violence,
but not
workplace
hiring black
discrimination
assistants is a discrimination issue.
Yeah, but that's discrimination. I'm saying that I'm taking a couple of these, saying treated his employees like trash or not hiring black assistants. We could have that conversation about a couple local state's attorneys, frankly, elected officials, and that is a discrimination issue. But some of these issues, frankly, may not be for public concern. Some of them are HR related. I'm just trying to present a counterpoint. The Black Lives Matter stuff, once again, like we saw with Scott Schellenberger, we saw Robin Coffin on the news saying Black Lives Matter and police lives matter. And so some of these things are political in nature, but they also relate to, if you say, well, I want to march with the Black Lives rally and I can't do it, you are working for an elected official, and then it's, okay, well, do you have a First Amendment right to be there, or are you representing the office being there? And so I guess what I'm trying to get with some of this stuff is it requires a little bit more knowledge of the facts as to whether she's saying, should the entire office be allowed to do it as a representation in the office?
Yeah,
or is it just they told me as an individual I'm not allowed to do it?
It would be very different if she were not an employee criticizing her boss.
100%. Right? Yeah, that's the point.
Well, so just from an opinion standpoint, as people who were state's attorneys and are now defense lawyers, what does it say that she is now the assistant state's attorney for the county after being fired from the public defender's office?
She needed a job.
Well, but they were willing to hire her.
So she obviously didn't have as terrible a reputation. So some of the other articles indicated, she was demoted, she was this, she was that. If the state's attorney's office hires her, obviously she didn't have that poor of a reputation to be tarnished where she was unable to be employed. I mean, and they certainly would have had firsthand knowledge of interactions with her. In the criminal defense world, it's a small bar. Everybody knows everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it obviously sounds bad, but we even saw when you bring up the BLM stuff, like all of us want to be part of that movement. But if you're an elected official and you're working with the police chief and the sheriff's office, that stuff is going to affect your relationship. I'm not assessing the right or wrong headed nature of it, but these are policy considerations that elected officials have to take into place to maintain their relationships within the community. And so I would want more facts about what happened, but it obviously sounds bad.
It's an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
Hat tip to listener Peter for that story. All right.
Who has already said we look like a boy band?
We do.
We're close.
All right.
Come on. Do the Kurt thing.
Kurt looks like he committed fraud while working for a mortgage company, went to jail, got out, and fly fishes. He looks like a youth pastor like the Pied Piper of youth pastors. Looks like he flies small Cessnas on weekends while trafficking large amounts of cocaine.
Cocaine.
But across the Canadian border.
100%. His motto is, I only fly north of North Africa.
He's evading the Mounties.
Exactly. Adam looks like he plays in a hipster band that has a show at the 8x10 tonight.
Yeah.
Adam looks like he slaps his bass in his office with the door shut. Gideon's outfit looks like he's a member of Shawshank Redemption. And I look like I'm a lawyer with a coke problem. I just look. We did an investigation in a part of the city today, and I didn't want to wear a suit. And I would say I don't want to stand out, but I wore bright red fucking sneakers and a camo jacket. The camo I thought
Well,
would
the
blend
camo-
in
Yeah.
with my
exactly.
giant Jewish star.
No one can see you from the waist up.
Exactly. I blend in well on Mayfield in the Northeast. And with that,
So, last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a story about a mansion in the Hamptons where there was a executive from Wall Street squatting in this Hamptons mansion. Well, in this week's episode of I Can't Believe It's Not Baltimore, it actually is Baltimore. A Baltimore County widow put her $1 million mansion on the market. Then the sovereign citizens moved in. And let me get this started, and then I want you to describe the sovereign citizens to our listeners. Valued at $1.5 million, the Falls Road home has it all, hidden among trees on 2 acres with an elegant outdoor terrace overlooking lush green forest. The 2.5-story mansion boasts a stone fireplace, vaulted wood beam ceilings, 6 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, a deluxe butler's pantry, an indoor pizza oven, large windows across the walls of the 10,000 square foot place. There's even a treehouse with a wraparound porch. It was a dream home designed and built by a prominent commercial real estate broker and his wife in 2005, 2 years after the pair married. But when he died early last year, his widow hired a real estate agent, put her abode on the market, and moved. Okay. What are the sovereign citizens?
sovereign citizens are people that claim to be non-citizens, meaning they are not citizens of the United States. They do not believe they are beholden to any local ordinances, Maryland state laws, any state laws. And so what they do is, and we've seen this throughout the court system, not just taking over houses, but they will either squat in property and then say, we own the property and you can't put us out because you don't have jurisdiction because we don't believe in your court system, so we don't have to play in your court system, so we're just going to sit here until you essentially raid the property and put us out. They tried to do this in Hartford County. In the criminal context, we will have criminal defendants accused of crimes. More often than not, they will not want a lawyer. They will reject the services of the public defender, and then they will constantly show up to court dates, most of which are incarcerated individuals, and say, I am a sovereign citizen. The blood is my blood. They usually have this copy of paperwork for being a sovereign citizen.
Like a sovereign citizen manifesto.
Yeah, it's like a fucking vaccine card. These are, by the way, the same people that would be like, we don't need a vaccine card, but like, here's my sovereign citizen membership. I'm just not a president, I'm a member. And so then you have to go through this goofy litigation in court, which most judges take seriously enough only to go through the steps of saying you are, in fact, beholden to Maryland law, whether you want to agree with it or not. And then they constantly interrupt the proceedings to say that we can't prosecute them. I believe I prosecuted one individual like that. I think if you went through the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office and you didn't have at least one sovereign citizen case, then you were not a state's attorney.
It was in front of the Honorable George Russell.
GLR the third.
GLR the third.
I'd like to represent a sovereign citizen in removal proceedings.
Where would they get deported to? That's the problem. Is like I don't believe that you can deport me. And when you deport me,
1785 Treaty of Morocco says I don't know, they can go somewhere.
It always goes back to Morocco, which is so funny. But
Morocco.
So they present these treaties.
No, it's not a thing.
They have this paper from these treaties that exist on the internet, that have like a Snopes link to them, that these things don't exist. And then, or they take things that do exist and then change them or modify them to fit, the bottom line is we don't believe we're beholden to any of your laws, and therefore you can't prosecute us, as though that's ever stopped a corrections officer from transporting them from court to jail and back.
So in this particular situation,
so is it like super hypocritical that they don't claim that the law has any power over them, but they try to use the law to gain an advantage over?
In foreclosure, yes. Later in the story, we learn that the main individual, Tessa Maderi, tried to use a foreclosure statute in order to gain ownership of a property.
Well, she's not subject to those laws, so she can't gain advantage from them.
Yeah,
right?
there's no reason with any of these individuals. They just they use this stuff to try to frustrate prosecutors into closing out cases, whether it's dismissing
they're basically
them or
like
offering them better
intelligent grifters.
I wouldn't even say intelligent. I would say stubborn
Yeah.
and willing to ride it out. I wouldn't say intelligent. They're just willing to go along for the ride because a lot of them, this is their life. They're used to squatting. They're used to sitting things out. And frankly, a lot of them are patient but obstinate people. I wouldn't call them smart.
So,
okay.
Phone calls from worried neighbors began in June. There was a chain locked across the widow's driveway. Warnings against trespassers appeared along the property perimeter. and a group was spotted unloading furniture and other items from a moving truck. The widow soon discovered her locks had been changed and that she's been accused of fraud and sued for property ownership. A group of at least 5 self-proclaimed sovereign citizens overran the mansion, attempting what one squatter described as a sovereign acquisition, according to Baltimore County Police
Isn't that basically
reports.
like a foreign invasion? Like this is
Adverse possession. It's a coup d'etat.
They bogged down the courts with fraudulent filings, which sometimes they dub paper terrorism. They resist paying traffic fines, paying taxes, in an attempt to move into unoccupied homes that they don't own, claiming rights to the property. Not only is prosecuting difficult, there are just not enough laws in place that will prevent sovereign citizen activities, said Rachel Goldwasser, a research analyst at the Southern Poverty Law Center, a national group that monitors extremists. One squatter, Tessa Modiri, who calls herself a non-citizen national, filed a complaint in early June alleging the homeowner and her mortgage company are fraudulently using a third-party real estate agency to short sell the property, which the homeowner, of course, denies. Modiri filed a similar complaint on June 14th, attempting to take ownership of a foreclosed commercial property in Harford County. This is where it gets really weird. Court records list an address in Bel Air for Modiri that is shared with Renew Med Spa, which offers Botox, chemical peels, and other cosmetic services. Its website describes Modiri as a Bel Air dentist. Tessa M. Modiri of Bel Air has an active dentist license with the Maryland State Board of Dental Examiners. So she does comply with that law.
Yeah, chew on that, Gideon.
However,
Well, what I was wondering now is a non-citizen national every client that Adam works with?
Mm-mm.
No,
My
because they
clients
want
are
to
not
be.
citizens or nationals.
Yeah.
Mm.
This story really has some teeth.
no. Officers obtained a search warrant for the home after identifying one of the squatters, Michael Lawrence Warren, as a felon with an extensive criminal record during a June 23rd stop as he left the property. Ultimately, Warren has been convicted in various states of impersonating a lawyer, multiple sex offenses, and was arrested after police recovered a loaded handgun and ammo believed to belong to him from a safe in a home. Police have charged 3 other squatters, Ayana B. Cox, Cesar Tellez Zuniga, and Kia Dyer, with third-degree burglary, but have been unable to make arrests, County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger says. So there's some other similar incidents. In 2013, Prince George's County man illegally occupied a mansion in Bethesda, basing his ownership claims on a 1787 treaty between the United States and Morocco that some sovereign nationals say exempt them from all American laws.
I should have read the
except
article.
apparently dental licensing. He was convicted of burglary, theft, and identity fraud. In June, 4 self-proclaimed sovereign nationals were arrested at a New Jersey home. A man in that case faces charges that include burglary and trespassing, as well as terroristic threats. And in Tennessee, a family tangled. Ooh, I love the alliteration here. The Tennessee family tangled with a self-identified sovereign citizen after it bought property once belonging to the man's mother. He filed a judgment against the property, claiming the sale was improper. That was a lot.
I don't understand with how eviction laws in Maryland, even with COVID, how they can't just go in the house. Like I have had
that's what
plenty
I'm
of tenants
misunderstanding.
evicted, or when we've talked about
They're not even
the extreme risk
actual
protection orders.
You can't use self-help in residential evictions.
Yeah, but the sheriffs have no problems going into properties. I'm not talking about in Howard County. I'm talking about in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and putting people out and opening the door, moving their stuff outside.
Well,
I mean,
in another article, they said that they tried that, and there was a barricade situation that happened.
so Waco and Baltimore.
Little Waco, yeah.
If this was Florida, this story, you won't find this story in Florida because
No.
they would just fucking kill them. And in
Yes.
Texas, they would just kill them.
Yes.
It's only in Maryland where we allow this poor old lady to have a bunch of criminals sit inside of her house squatting, pretending that they're not beholden to Maryland law. Is that fair?
I mean, it happened in Baltimore.
I can't believe he's a Democrat. I just said that. I got a Republican to agree with me.
Speaking of cheerleaders,
We were just
we
talking
weren't
about
speaking of
cheerleaders.
cheerleaders, but Gideon was speaking of cheerleaders. Here's your story, buddy.
Yeah. 8-1 ruling.
This is an
8-1
ruling. The Supreme Court of the United. And by the way, this ruling came out last term. It came out in like June. It's just been in my hopper of stories.
And the one dissent is the easiest dissent.
I highlighted it for
fun.
Adam. I mean, I know he's going to hit on those points. I won't ruin the dissent for anybody. June 23rd, the Supreme Court on Wednesday ruled in favor of a Pennsylvania teenager who sued after a profanity-laced social media post got her banished from her high school's cheerleading squad in a closely watched free speech case. But it declined to outright bar public schools from regulating off-campus speech. Many schools and educators have argued that their ability to curb bullying, threats, cheating, and harassment all occur frequently online should not be limited to school grounds. The justices preserve the authority of public schools to sometimes regulate speech that occurs away from campus. They declined to endorse a lower court decision that found that the First Amendment guarantee of freedom of speech prohibited punishing students for what they say off campus. Schools' regulatory interests remain significant in some off-campus circumstances, Justice Breyer wrote. Breyer cited some specific behavior which may require schools to act, including severe bullying as opposed to mild bullying, or harassment, threats aimed at teachers or other students, and rule breaking. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah,
rule breaking?
It's pretty vague.
That's, yeah. When it comes to political or religious speech that occur outside the school or a school program or activity, the school will have a heavy burden to justify the intervention.
It just occurred to me, I think what rule breaking means is that if you're going to post like against the school or something on social media, you have to do it in school uniform. You can't do it out of uniform.
Yeah. Your speech is not protected if you're in uniform.
I mean, there actually, in all seriousness, in Maryland, there is a terroristic threat statute, which is a relatively new statute that has been utilized to prosecute students in Maryland for instance, there was a student last year that put up a picture of what could have been an airsoft gun or pellet gun and just said, I'm done, like the Alice, what is it? School's done for summer. Was it Alice?
School's out.
School's out.
Thank you.
School's out.
That person was charged with terroristic threats. So, I mean, when I'm looking at something like this, whether it's talking about rule breaking, there wasn't profanity in that situation, and it wasn't even directed towards the school, you run into situations where does that line cross of school involvement if you're not on property, and how much does it actually have to involve the educational system?
So what's your buddy say?
In dissent, conservative Justice Clarence Thomas said, "What the fuck just happened? I was asleep."
No, I thought he
love
does.
Clarence Thomas.
So he makes an interesting point. Not agreeing with him.
You better start drinking if you're going to say
historically
shit like that on this podcast.
Schools could historically discipline students in circumstances like those presented here, and that lower courts will have difficulty at a loss in trying to apply the ruling. I think
the second point may be true.
The second point is valid. The first point. So, by the way,
the whole reason why this is an issue is because of social media, which is not something that historically schools have had to ever deal with.
You mean Snapchat wasn't around in 1789?
Apparently not.
At the Treaty of Morocco.
So, so this is great. The cheerleader just to sort of set the ground for what this.
I want to hear the post, man.
This post was. I couldn't find the exact post. I think it had been deleted.
It was on Snapchat.
It was via Snapchat,
so, yeah.
right? On Saturday at a Cocoa Hut convenience store in Mahoney City, Pennsylvania, in Pennsylvania's coal region. By the way, I've never heard. I'm from Pennsylvania. You're from Pennsylvania. Have you ever heard of Mahoney City?
Mahanoy, or however you pronounce this? No.
Never heard of it.
No
Don't
clue.
think it exists.
Coal country?
I don't think you guys from the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania are allowed to make fun of Pennsylvania coal towns.
Yeah.
We're not making fun of it. We just don't know where it is.
I just don't know where it is. I mean,
it's so obscure that we have never heard of it.
But they have social media, Adam.
They do. Apparently they have internet.
She posted a photo of her and a friend raising their middle fingers, adding a caption using the same curse word four times to voice her displeasure with the cheerleading, softball, school, and, quote, everything.
It would be hard to get fuck cheerleading, fuck softball, fuck school, fuck everything. Like,
yeah.
If Elena came home and did that, I'd be upset, but I'd be like, you know what? You're right. Fuck softball.
Everything.
Fuck cheerleading. That's like the most teenage girl shit. I thought it was going to be way worse than this.
Nope. But as punishment, the Mahanoy area school coaches kicked her off the cheerleading squad for a year.
To which she responded, "Fuck cheerleading." Like, who cares?
So she responded, and the ACLU took up her case, and she did literally make a Supreme Court case out of it.
But they had to go all the way back to the 1969 Supreme Court precedent from another very urban area, Tinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School District. This stuff obviously happens in very, very urban,
bad facts mean
populated
bad law,
places.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So that case involved the power of public schools as government institutions in regulating speech. This is not to be confused with private schools where you do not get to say anything you want. Period. End of story. Don't come to me and having gone to a private school and complain when they kick you out because you say something dumb. They can do that.
I want to be this little girl for Halloween. Fuck everything. Fuck you. Fuck cheerleading. Fuck the corns.
Listener Rob wants to
No,
know if you're
I'm
wearing
not
a
sure she
puffy
would-
coat. And by the way,
No.
you're not wearing a
Ooh,
puffy
ouch.
coat.
No,
It's
you're
just
not.
a camo coat.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no
actually
puffy.
Rob, it's 2 days of denim. I had a nice denim jacket on yesterday. This is also denim.
Yeah.
It
Also,
just looks like you're puffy.
listener
I'm a
Katie
little-
said that
okay.
we should make Lawyers on the Rocks bobbleheads, and I
Oh, that's a good
100%
idea.
agree.
That's a good idea.
I'm already shaped like one, so that won't be a problem.
Yesterday, Rob, yesterday's denim was so egregious. I asked Jeremy if he had a Canadian Zoom hearing because it was only
It
denim.
was definitely a Canadian tuxedo.
It was like
Yeah, the Shawshank joke I made with Gideon today was really about me yesterday. I looked like I just stepped out of a 1950s jail movie, like Cool Hand Luke.
I asked.
The sweatiest movie ever.
Yeah, so I mean, I had all blue on yesterday.
Just
I
a-
looked like a Smurf that went to jail.
It was just
wearing
an
denim.
easy warrant recall in Winnipeg.
Oh, exactly. I probably could have been from that Mahanoy city that in Pennsylvania's coal region with all that denim. That might be the other place it fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jeremy trying to dress cool this week. It's not. At least I'm not wearing like True Religion jeans or something. But yeah, yesterday was pretty fucking bad. Yesterday was pretty bad.
Wait, did you wear? Hold on. Wait, I need to know this. Did you wear the jacket for the video jail call, or did you take it off?
Not only, yes, 100% I wore the jacket. And then one of the lawyers, Bill Sinclair at Silverman Thompson, wrote me, "Are you wearing a fucking jean jacket?" Meanwhile, his 100-pound dog has his paws up on his lap. He's curtsized, and he's licking Bill's face during the client thing. So I don't think the guy who's letting his fucking dog give him kisses during our client interview can criticize me for wearing a jean jacket with maybe a couple pins on it.
That's funny as shit.
But it was flair. You have to have a certain amount of flair to work here.
To wear a jean jacket.
Yeah, next Friday, I'll be wearing that Nigerian soccer jersey I bought.
All right. So I hate to say that we saved the best for last, but
We definitely did.
we definitely saved the best for last. So we're continuing our First Amendment theme, and we're circling back to license plates.
Wait, can we get another round for this story?
I'm not drinking this stuff again. It's too.
Can we just get a
sour
quick
for
pour of
me.
whiskey?
Yeah. Do we have any?
Could
whiskey?
someone here that loves us so much,
Harley, bring the bottle.
if Harley could do this like Anchorman, if the dog could bring us whiskey, he would have a job here.
Oh, give emotions.
Yeah. No, definitely.
If they're
Oceans,
out.
please.
Yeah.
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 And if the guest member of the audience would like anything to drink,
Thank you. We have a live studio audience here today, folks.
thank you very much.
His name is
No, just
Harley.
drop it in.
Oh, by the
Here's
way,
Harley. I can't
listener
believe I'm
Katie
putting
says,
Jefferson
Adam,
over.
hi.
Tell her we were.
Was that
we were
it? Your voice sounded like
that,
there were more
that seems
words.
very aggressive for someone that I
Long
had
time no see.
extensive text message conversation with this morning while I was running. You know how hard it is to text and jog at the same time?
I'm surprised you can do those two things at the same time.
Listener Katie also says she's traveling to Florida soon, and so maybe she'll meet herself a fine Florida man.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
I mean, I think she should just adversely possess some fucking property down there. while she's
Tell her we have a mansion in Baltimore County she can stay at. Oh, that brought it all the way there.
Oh,
Better.
only because you were talking about Jason Isbell.
We were talking about the new album released today.
Yeah, you're dressed like it.
Did you go to his CD release party? Do they still have those?
No.
Did you go to like the Apple store where they do the iTunes.
Ooh, you
and they
do look
release
like
the
you could work at the
iTunes.
Genius.
Well,
Bar.
the album was released streaming today, but the vinyl comes out on Record Store Day for Black Friday.
You're you're smiling, but you're gonna be waiting in line. To
Yeah,
buy this
you
album.
are.
I don't think I'll have to wait in line for that one. I think there'll be enough copies available.
You're gonna get the vinyl.
Yeah,
You like the analog sound.
I do. I do. I'm working. I am. Yes, I'm buying a lot more on vinyl these days.
You're an audiophile.
Gideon, he has a guitar in his room, and occasionally he pulls it out between consoles.
He's always slapping the bass. He's all about that bass.
All right, let's finish
don't
up.
slap the
Let's finish
bass.
up this
I know.
podcast, gentlemen.
All right, so
It's Shabbos. I have to get home.
Wow. Shomer Shabbos.
do you?
Can we
On
talk?
Shabbos?
Can we talk about your? Can we talk about you at lunch today?
Do you roll on Shabbos?
If you
Jeremy?
do,
Oh,
we're
he
doing the
rolled
story
right under the
quickly.
table
If
today.
you do, we're doing the story quickly.
Come on, you can tell it.
I don't want to tell it.
We'll spare him today.
I have some Hasidic Jews that like dropping off challah bread for me for Shabbos on Fridays, and sometimes I like rapping tefillin and praying with them, and sometimes I need to hide under a table to escape them. And today, I hid under a table as soon as I saw them and came out after they left.
And did your law partner run interference for you like a champ, like a fucking boss?
I mean, seriously, you 100% did, and I was.
I was like, he will not be seeing
I was like
you
the
today.
diary of fucking Anne Frank.
Did
hiding
your
under
other
the table?
Did your other law? Did your other law partner stomp on the floor and tell you to get out?
Dude, you
from
told me to
underneath
go
the
get my
fucking table?
challah like a little asshole.
Incidentally, our family is
We-
reading that book. right
Really?
now,
We can
yeah.
post the picture. I mean, everyone started laughing at me and taking pictures of me under the table, which I figured out very quickly that if I had to go on the run, who would support Diego de la Costa, aka Jeremy Aldridge. And his
I would sell you out so fucking fast.
Really?
For a loaf of challah?
Dude, that was mighty whitey.
Hell yeah.
That was mighty whitey.
Mm.
For a loaf of
Challas.
challah? He's
Make-
right here, guys.
I
Very
don't want
good
to say
French
you were
toast.
a
Right the
Karen,
fuck
but
here.
that was pretty close. I slid right under the table with like 50 people there.
I'm
and
surprised
no
you
one
didn't
could be
sprain
quiet.
your ankle on the way down.
Does our studio
That was
audience
last
know
Friday
that you
after
sprained
the
your ankle the other
podcast.
day? Walking.
You know, people are going to realize that you guys are abusing me. This is a little bit of emotional and physical abuse.
I feel like this is all
I have another
protected
lawyer in
speech.
the audience that can
Is-
represent me.
Is this going to be protected by free speech rights?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Tune in next week to see if Jeremy's lawsuit against his business partners prevails on First Amendment grounds.
Where I sue for not letting me leave early for Shabbos. Because you have to do the podcast. You can't leave.
So can we talk about license plates?
I think we're ready for this one now. We just needed we needed to really switch gears.
Yeah.
We needed to, shit on Jeremy a little bit. Now we can talk about this story.
I mean, we started the episode with him making fun of us, so it's only fair,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Comes full circle, jerk.
A nation.
A nation conceived in liberty.
Your reading is
confronts its
fucking
queasiness
questionable
with
today.
the milk.
You even highlighted the portions, Kurt.
I
Come on.
did.
Do you need my readers?
Perhaps. A nation conceived in liberty confronts its queasiness with the MILF-mobile. Brittany Glidden drives Maine's most beloved vehicle.
By the way, that is a BBC
Who-
headline.
I was
right
gonna
there,
say,
if I've
who-
ever heard one.
Who wrote that first line?
Everyone loves my van except for Karens, Glidden said, referring to a pejorative term for entitled white women. Karens hate it, she says. Karen's ride sports a enormous custom-made MILF-mobile logo plastered on its rear windshield. Her ride also sports "Kids in this bitch, honk if one falls out.
Fair.
If you're gonna ride my ass, at least pull my hair," and "Condoms prevent minivans." But it's her tits out vanity license plate is latched to the MILF Mobile's bumper.
Should I bring the picture up, Kurt?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Here we go.
So here we have our
Ooh, it's a Chrysler too.
it's classy. It's a 2013 teal Chrysler Town and Country minivan. It's fantastic.
You know how I know that Chrysler minivans are fancy? Have you guys ever been inside one? And you know how like cars have like a clock right in the dash? They have a clock
Like
with
a
hands.
dial clock.
Analog
Yeah.
clock.
Weren't you
Classic.
born in
Fucking
one?
Fancy. Huh?
What?
Motherfucker.
I like that the plate references the fact that she
Oh
exclusively
my gosh. Okay,
breastfed
so
all
our
4
member of our
her
studio
children.
audience points out the fact that we missed one of the photos, which is "Only gay cops give me tickets."
Ooh.
Ooh.
She's
That's the only
she's
offensive
very
one I've
confident-
heard.
She's very confident in her ability to
I'm
not
sure
have
she's
tickets.
a safe driver.
I'm sure. There's also this vehicle makes sudden stops at your mom's house.
Oh, wow.
If a cop that's not gay pulls her over, does he have to call a gay cop for backup? And then can that cop sue for discrimination? Like, I'm tired of having to ticket her. Tired of Britney. Fuck Britney.
So Britney, free Britney. The plate references the fact that I exclusively breastfed all 4 of my children, Glidden said, and that I frequently drive topless. Maine is, in fact, a topless state.
I agree. There's no states above it. It's all Canada all the way up.
Maine's current Secretary of State, Sheena Bellows, strongly supports Mr. William Diamond, who wants to ban vulgar vanity plates. Although, interestingly enough, he was the person who originally implemented the vanity plate program in 1989.
They were supposed to be fun and creative.
One of my favorite games on road trips as a kid was the license plate game. But sadly, this is not a game I'd recommend to kids on Maine's roadways today. You just can't escape the proliferation of the F word or worse. And that's because we have witnessed a rise in offensive plates.
Come on.
It's a
Let's do the
fucking
best one.
pandemic.
OMWTFYB. On my way to fuck your bitch.
Is that? I didn't know what that was.
Or OMGSCFU.
Yes,
oh
we
my
have,
God.
Wait,
Shut the
but
fuck up.
can that one really qualify as being offensive? Because I would have seen that, and had I not had the translation right here, been like, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't disagree with you.
I mean,
OMGSTFU. That one's pretty good.
Yeah,
I got
I eat
that.
that was
ass.
fairly straightforward.
Was it I eat ass?
Oh, that's what it is. I was like, I
I
eat a
eat
55. What's that?
Well, that was from a previous episode too, right? Didn't we have the Florida guy with the truck that said "I eat
I eat
ass"?
I eat ass.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that license plate was found to be fine too.
I like the "fuck you too" one because I also hate you too.
It's not.
I mean, they're the most overrated fucking. I mean, come on.
I guess my question is, Adam, what was it like being breastfed in the Chrysler Town country?
I'm not gonna answer
So
that.
they sort of run through a series of kind of offensive ones. There's a guy David Montenegro, whose legal name, I don't think that's his real name, by the way. His legal name is Human. Successfully sued New Hampshire Division of Department of Motor Vehicles after officials rejected his application for a Cops Lie, COPSLIE vanity plate, but agreed to issue him a Great Government instead.
Great government.
So great government is okay, but cops lying is not okay. Let's just be clear about that. And then they struck down the DMV's offensive to the good taste of a reasonable person standard as a result of his lawsuit in a 5-0 decision. David Wardmansky is another example of upcoming free speech conflicts in the Pine Tree State. I guess it's Vermont, right? Is that the fucking pine? What the fuck is
It's
the
not
Pine State?
Maine.
I
The
don't
whole
know.
article is about Maine.
No, they were talking about New Hampshire.
Other states too that are topless.
I don't know how anyone got stuck with the Pine Tree State. Like, Rhode Island's live free or die, and then you end up with the Pine Tree State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Wardmansky has ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. His license plate currently reads "fuck ALS," which, by the way, I've said numerous times. Under Maine's new law, his message would technically be interpreted no differently than if a plate said "fuck you."
Slightly different.
I rarely get negative feedback from anyone about my plate, but frankly, I welcome it when I do.
That's
I tell
because
them,
having things says fuck owls.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if your name is Al?
All
Yeah,
owls,
that's
like
true.
Karens.
Call me out.
the Pine
No.
Tree State.
Let's take a poll of
Maine is the Pine Tree State.
Maine is the Pine Tree
Let's take
State.
a poll of who on this podcast actually has a vanity plate. Raise your hand if you have a vanity plate. What does yours say, Master Eldridge?
Holla!
Kurt, you changed yours, right?
I did because of the misinterpretation.
It was easily misinterpreted.
You had
Well-
if anyone had an inappropriate one, yours was penis taster.
Or porn star, depending on how you read it.
I read it
what
as
was
penis
it?
taster.
It was
Penn Stater?
PNST8R.
Penn
Penn
Stater,
Stater.
but penis
Penis tater?
Now it's just Penn State, so it can't be misinterpreted.
Hmm.
So I actually spent another $180 getting a different
That was like the best day ever when he came back. He said, my brother told me this penis taster. Fuck these days. I'm going to go get a new one. Spent like 2 hours getting a new vanity plate.
But what does yours say, Jeremy? You didn't.
We have another story.
We don't. We definitely
There's-
don't.
if you
But I
flip to
do want to.
page
I do want
9.
to end page. Oh no, it's just the
Mine says DILF.
what we got 5 years of being able to have whatever we want on license plates because of freedom of speech, Glidden said. And now, suddenly, someone whined like a spoiled brat. Can you say Karen? So freedom of speech no longer applies. I won't be giving my plate back, and neither will most Mainers. Glidden finished. The MILF Mobile will never be canceled. That's the
So
best line.
so legally, do we think there's going to be a challenge to this? Like, what's the implied powers states legislation versus federal free speech here?
So
I mean, I guess because the state is issuing the plate, that they would have control over that. But
So the Supreme Court has said that you can either regulate, but if you are going to regulate the speech associated with license plates, then it's going to be strictly scrutinized. So if someone wants to have an offensive plate, you better be prepared to defend that if you're going to cancel the plate.
Profanity is the easiest one
Profanity is
because
the easy one.
they're
It's not
never
protected.
letting profanity.
Yeah, it's not protected by freedom of speech. However, a lot, and by the way, this is a big moneymaker for states,
like,
right?
fuck Jews, no. Love Jews, yes.
Well, but I think the better example would be like the cops lie versus like fuck cops, right?
Or
Like,
love cops, yes.
right.
I mean, personally, I think that cops lie is a political statement.
Yeah, it should be legal,
it's
probably
clearly
protected.
political speech.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
protected speech. So the issue you run into with laws like this is not everybody's going to take a case to the Supreme Court.
You got to have the money and the will.
The ACLU typically supports endeavors like this. They look for carefully framed cases that fit within the framework of whatever's going on in the different circuits, and so they're gonna pick and choose what they want to do depending on the circumstances. So you're not gonna willy-nilly get the MILF Mobile taking her case to the Supreme Court, although it would be awesome if she did.
Yeah.
Parked right outside the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. The free speech episode should have been the most fun, but this was pretty serious.
It was pretty boring.
This was pretty serious.
was
We didn't
pretty
have
boring.
any Florida stories. This is what happens when you have no Florida stories. I want a Florida law podcast. Florida law and BBC. And you know what I mean by BBC.
Yes. British Broadcasting.
Corporation.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what you meant.
Best
Yep.
headline writers out there.
And with that, what do we think of the drink?
I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna say the cider's delicious. Megan made it. It was really good the second time when it was like 3 parts whiskey to 1 part cider, because it gave it a nice. I'm being serious,
Mhm.
and it's good whiskey. We're drinking the Jefferson's Ocean, which we've had on the podcast before, but it gave it a little, little cut, little sweet, little apple, little spice, little Karen.
I want a flannel shirt and a campfire.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I want.
I want to hug a pumpkin when I drink it.
Is that what we're calling it?
Hugging pumpkins.
What do you think, Gideon? Can
Maybe
you give us
carve-
some tasting
Could
notes?
carve a pumpkin.
Apple. Cider.
There's definitely some cinnamon.
Cardamom.
I thought it was okay. I drank all mine before I added more whiskey to it, so mine was mostly cider. It was okay. It didn't knock my socks off. I don't think it's the kind of drink that I would have normally liked anyway, though.
If it was really cold out, it would be good. For me, it's a little too acidic.
You're getting some of the agita.
But that's me.
Well, then
Eldridge.
thank you. We both know I took my heartburn medication before drinking juice, so
Good to
we're
go.
on the same thing. I'm like the oldest dude on the planet. Let's take some Pepsid before we drink juice. Hire me, the coolest defense attorney that gets heartburn.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Lawyers on the Rocks. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed making. Till the next time, sit back, relax, pour yourself a drink. Till the next episode of Lawyers on the Rocks.
I feel like we wasted that Jefferson Ocean on that cider, though. I was mad when we started pouring. But we have no other fucking whiskey except the White Power whiskey.
No, there was.
No, we have a white.
We have-
Somebody
there
gave
was
us a
the-
bottle of
there-
Chosen Sons whiskey.
There was
And we won't drink it on the podcast.
the Eagle Head stuff. The Eagle Head stuff was in was almost a full bottle.
What's the Eagle?
Yeah, what's
Eagle
that?
Rare?
No, I don't know. It's that thing with the eagle head on top. Did you
Oh,
get it from
the
somewhere?
stuff. No, that was, our client gave us both of those. He gave us the Jefferson and that.
Dude, the fuck.
Hey, buddy.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
You couldn't wait until Monday to not see me?
I'm not here for you.
She's here to harass me.
I see.
Apparently my job here is done.
You did a good job.
They can do it all on
I
their
get
own.
abused everywhere I go, Becca. You should know that by now. So this is Becca Nyberg. You've never actually met Adam.
I've
That's
never
Clarissa. That's Gideon. Now that you know everyone, you've met.
Hi.
Adam. How are you?
I can almost make coherent sentences. It's great.
Long day.
Are you also a lawyer?
I am.
Sorry.
She's worse too. You think I'm bad? She's running for delegate.
It's true.
Where?
In Howard County. Southern
The
Howard
best county.
Southern Howard County. He's not in my district. I don't pay him to say that.
West side.
No thanks.
We're like a different county compared to you. We don't really acknowledge
That is
Southern
true.
Howard
Let
County.
me know if you need election media.
I mean, I won't turn it down.
I mean, I didn't say
Gideon
it was
did
free.
Rich's video last night.
Nice.
In here, you may recognize the layout.
I mean,
You
that
assume
was
that I
like
watch anybody else's
that was in like
I
a
mean, you
day.
should.
What's happening here?
I already support him. Why